Does anybody know who Edward Weston was? Famous black and white fine art photographer. Edward Weston, one of his famous pictures called Pepper 30, Pepper number 30, because it was the 30th time he shot this thing, just sold at Sotheby's for $1.2 million, and the size was 11:14. It's an extraordinary photograph. Well, I photographed his grandson this spring at Point Lobos at Weston Beach. That was named for his grandfather. And it's part of a project that you're going to all see sometime very soon from Epson. Epson wants to own the world of black and white papers and inks. And they brought me along, and so I did this pretty major shoot and major project with Epson. So you'll see that soon. But this was all part of that project, and it featured Kim Weston as well as John Sexton. You heard us talk a lot about Sexton yesterday when we were at the Ansel Adams Gallery. John Sexton's a great friend of mine, and he was really close to Ansel Adams and worked for Ansel for many years here in the park. This is Edward Weston's office and home, and everything is exactly as he left it when he died. And he's been dead a long time. That's the Pepper. You've seen this probably. It's a very famous photograph. I asked Kim if he's still if he's got a current, if he's got a print of Pepper 30 that's not in Edward's house, and he said, "Oh, absolutely not." I said, "But don't you have the negatives?" He said, "Well, yeah." I said, "So print one." He said, "No, we don't do that. That negative's been in a safe deposit box for 40 years. They don't print it anymore. It hasn't been printed in a very long time." What made that interesting, and I didn't know this until Kim told me, that was a 12-hour exposure. This was an F128 wasn't small enough to hold the focus on an 8x10 view camera. So what Weston did is he hired an engineer in Monterey to make him a smaller aperture that went from 128 to 256. And ISO 12 film, and it took it 12 hours to burn in the exposure. And that's why those highlights in that Pepper were so amazing, is that it followed the track the sun throughout their skylight in their home throughout the day. At any rate, I can go into a lot more detail that nobody cares about. The fact is, it inspires me every day to try to do better, because this guy had none of the tools that we have now. And his work just knocks me out. We just keep shooting and look at the back of our camera until we see something we like, and then we stop, and then aren't we great? No, we're not great at all. This guy got one shot, and it took him 12 hours to get it. In 12 hours, how many did we shoot today? 600? Right? This is his darkroom, which is exactly as he left it. All the chemistry is still there. Here's the note card in his handwriting on his bookcase that says, "I don't lend books to friends. I don't want to lose my books or my friends." And it's funny now, today, he would be interested to see all these books in this case are his own books of his work that didn't exist when he was alive. It's pretty interesting. And then he is on the porch with Ansel Adams when they were both very, very young. So I think that's a pretty interesting thing. That's the same house that I was in. There's Kim. And here he is with John Sexton. And you heard us talk about Sexton yesterday. I'm such a fan of John. John's a unique individual. John carries this plastic cropping guide in his back pocket every day of his life, and he has for 30 years. And what he says is, I asked him, I said, "Why do you carry that cropping guide? Is it important to frame the picture?" He says, that's just one part of it. He said, the other part is lens selection. He said, when my arm is extended all the way straight, well, I know that's my 360 millimeter lens on my view camera. And if my arm is at a 90, that's my 210 millimeter lens. And if I've got this up close here, I know it's my wide angle lens. So he makes his lens selection based on the focal length of what he sees cropping through that guide based on the elbow bend. What a remarkable thought, And here's John in his gallery, and this is in Carmel Valley, California. And he's got an amazing, amazing body of work. And John is just a really great guy. We are within just a few months of each other's age. And he's a very introspective kind of a guy. And I shot this, and I thought, I'm real happy with that. And I sent him a print of that. So. Do you want to pass that book around for me real quick? I can't move because this plug's going to fall out and it's not screwed in. This is John's most recent book called Listen to the Trees. And it's out of print now. It's only, he just came out a few years ago with it. It's already out of print, and you can find it all over the place for $650. So it's a pretty important book to me. But most of that work was shot here in the park, here in Yosemite. And the work is hauntingly, stunningly gorgeous. And he looks for shape and lines and patterns and textures and all the things that we talked about today. All the things that we were looking for this whole week. And he's just done a remarkable job with it. So I encourage you to thumb through there and take a look. And then I just wanted to show you one other series of pictures real quick. Let me see if they're hidden or if they're out here. Hang on one second. Here we go. I think that one of the things that I've learned, I was never an amateur photographer. I was never a hobbyist. There's a funny story I heard a guy one time say that photographers start their career just like prostitutes. First you do it for fun, then you do it for friends, then you do it for money. And that's kind of the way photography works. I started it as a job. It never was a hobby for me. I never did photography for fun. I never owned a camera until my first camera was a Hasselblad. And the first time I ever used it was to shoot a job for a client. So for me, it was never a hobby. It was just work. And I've missed a lot of things that a lot of you guys have, a lot of the drive and ambition and enthusiasm you guys had. I didn't get that early on. I didn't get it for years. But I've learned that all of us go through a process when we go shoot. When we go out there and we're setting up, there's a zone that we all start trying to get into. And it might start for you when you're packing your gear in the morning. It might start when you're taking your stuff out of the car. It might start when you're setting up your tripod or framing your first picture of the morning. I'm not sure when it'll happen for each of you, but everybody has a process that they go through. And I found an artist in La Jolla, California, one day who was setting up an easel about to do this painting. And as he starts setting up, he was really taking his time and being very slow and very deliberate. And I was watching the guy work. I was testing a new lens, a 300 to 500 zoom lens for Tamron that year. And so he pulls out his paint, and he smears a little paint on his palette, and then he stands back and he looks at the ocean, he looks over at the beach, and he just is taking his time. It took him forever. And he squeezes out a little more paint, and then he picks up a different color and squeezes another color. All this takes about 30 minutes. I'm thinking, boy, this guy's taking forever. And finally he gets a brush in his hand, and I'm thinking, finally, we're going to see something happen here. And here's what he does. Can you see that? He's put these little black dots on his canvas. And I'm thinking, what is he doing? What do you think he's doing? Sorry? Say it. Rule of thirds. Look at, there's a dot at a rule of thirds. The intersections that Joe showed you. That's what this guy did. And then he pulls out a cropping guide, just like John Sexton's. And in the cropping guide are 4 strings that are exactly in rules of thirds. Can you see the strings? There you go. You can see them a little bit there. What it's done is now he can put perspective onto his canvas exactly as his eye sees. And I'm sitting here just blown away, shooting pictures from afar. This guy didn't know I was there. And I'm blown away about what I'm watching. I'm watching an artist at work, a true artist. It was brilliant. And then he finally starts painting. And once he started painting, he was finished with this thing in 3 minutes. It took him 30 minutes to get into the zone. And once he was in the zone, he just started slinging paint. And this guy went to town painting this painting of this place. This is La Jolla. This is a place called Wind and Sea Beach, and one of my favorite places to shoot. And you can see how he's got every color, and it's just all there. That's the last picture that I have, a close up. So I'm going to stop with that. But I just wanted to sort of re-emphasize that all of us, while you may or may not realize it, we're all in this thing together, and we're all going through the same. Stuff every day, and we're all going through the same concerns. And Joe McNally, who we heard from earlier, and I last summer were on a panel discussion in Santa Fe together, And during the panel discussions, they could ask anything they wanted of any of us. And one photographer said, she kind of wanted all of us to answer the question. She says, what do you most fear in your work? And while everybody's about to answer, and I probably came up with some smart aleck response, McNally says, I fear that I don't have another good picture in me. He said, I am terrified that I'm done, that I don't have any more ideas, that I'm going to run dry, that I can't do it anymore. And he says, that's what scares me. That's what keeps me up at night. So this is one of the most celebrated photographers in the world that has this feeling. So I'm relating this to you because I don't want any of you to feel that you're in this by yourself. Everybody feels the same thing that you're feeling. And if you're feeling you're not creative, you're feeling you can't pull it together and you just aren't seeing it, you're missing the wow pictures we talked about, Janine. Everybody fears that. We all do. They're not all going to be heroes. They're not all going to be winning shots. You know? But we're all going to get lucky occasionally, and we're all going to nail one occasionally. And that's what you show. The difference between pros and amateurs, we edit. We don't show everything. The amateurs make you look at everything. They say, well, all your pictures are good. And it's like, yes, because I'm not showing you the bad ones. You know? So I just think it's been, so far for me, this is an amazing thing. This trip that, and this brainchild of Chris's from 2 or 3 years ago, I just think it's a great opportunity to get together and talk about this stuff and try this stuff and go out and screw up a few pictures, you know. They're not all going to be winners, but you're going to walk out of here with 10 winners that will blow you and your friends away and your clients. And you'll be able to sell some of this work. There's some great work being shot here this week. I'm watching the back of your cameras. I know what you guys are doing. And you're all getting some great pictures.